Now that it's July, we're going to talk about our gardens. There's a whole lot going on in the garden, I believe. I believe there's a lot. But right here in the Backyard Gardens podcast, we're going over our July garden update.
To have a good harvest, one must plant good seeds and must also use the right kind of fertilizer. The carrots have grown large and firm. How good they will taste.
Welcome to the Backyard Gardens podcast, where we talk about all things gardening and give the information out for you to be successful in your garden, whether it's your first or your last. We are your hosts, Ben, the backyard gardener, and
Batavia, the front yard gardener.
one in the country,
One in the city.
Now get ready as we dig deep into this wonderful world of gardening as we learn to grow and grow for change. I have to make an announcement.
Okay.
I screwed up last time.
Oh, okay.
So as you may well know, we have t-shirts available, link in the description below. Mm-hmm. The coupon code, I believe I gave out the wrong one. It is GrowFood21, and that will give you 10% off. So
Okay.
I believe I said the wrong thing last time, which, you know, what can I say? I'm not perfect.
Well, listen.
Near
we appreciate
perfect.
you. Well, we're clearly not saying that either. But we appreciate you coming back, acknowledging the error in your ways, and making it right.
That's that's the least I can do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well,
It's literally the least.
yeah.
So let's see. We have all kinds of stuff to go over today.
I had to do a quick walk before we pressed record. Like I did my morning walk, my garden walk this morning. But, I'm a chatty catty. And so I got to talking to one of my neighbors. And then it was like, all right, I need to get some work done. And so I said, well, let me at least do a cursory walk to make sure that I'm at least partially truthful when we do this update. Like, let me make sure that stuff isn't dying and stuff is growing. And, you know, nothing's changed significantly since yesterday when I did a thorough garden walk. Mm-hmm.
A thorough garden walk. Yeah, I did one this morning just to double check things, but I've been working a lot in my garden every morning because we've had some cooler days.
Yeah.
So I've been taking advantage of that. And so I've been able to stay on top of it pretty well.
Good on you.
I am currently looking for the listener question.
Yeah, I thought I gave you some time to
No, see, don't start with
that stare off and all of that. But
I thought I'd give you time.
You want to hear a joke?
I want to hear a joke. It better be a good joke, though.
Oh, I totally don't have a joke. I just assumed you were going to say no. And then again, you would have the question.
No, I have so many here, but we had pulled out one, and I'm trying to get it right. I think it was, how do we get rid of white fly? Mm-hmm. Do you remember that?
Yeah. So Ben did this really cool thing on Instagram, and I'm sure he'll do it again in the future. He kind of just opened himself up and said, ask me anything. And boy, did they ask him anything.
They damn sure enough did.
So this is one of those questions, right?
Yeah, it was, I was put to the test. I'll just put it to you that way. And so for the record, my beard is organic AF. So I do not fertilize my beard, but thank you for asking. No, so basically the question was very simple. How do we get rid of white fly? Mm-hmm. So, Batavia, first of all, do you have white fly?
I don't think I've seen white flies, but if just based on me saying it, I'm sure they're out there right now.
It's right there. You just got double the amount. I mean, they are literally out there humping away, so you can see them now. So white fly, so to be honest, I get a little bit of it in my carrots, but I don't get it that bad. But luckily, I use a simple mixture of neem oil and dish soap to get rid of it. So
yeah,
pretty
they're
simple.
They're nasty. Like, the internet pictures are nasty looking.
You don't have them then? You've confirmed that you haven't had that issue?
Looking at them, no, I've been fortunate. And in my mind, I thought, well, maybe they look like aphids, and maybe I've confused aphids with these, and no, they don't, and I have not. So I've been fortunate. Definitely leaf damage. But I'm trying to figure out, does it teeter towards one plant versus another? Does it have favorites?
I don't know, to be honest. I know, like I said, every once in a while I get them in my carrots, and basically my maintenance spray, I think, takes care of it, which is, like I said, a neem oil and a dish soap. So just to go into that real quickly, the dish soap added to the neem oil is a dispersant. Okay, so what it does is it bonds to the neem oil, allows it to spray out, right? But it also has another thing is where, I don't know, I mean, when you wash your dishes at night, how do your hands feel when they're done?
Kind of dry.
Kind of dry? Like mine feel like the straight desert. Well, that's what it's doing to those little bugs. It's just desiccating them, their skin. So they're drying them out. So it's a twofer type deal.
Yeah.
So.
But not so much so where it's damaging the plants themselves.
No, not at all. And you're not using, so the recipe that I use is a tablespoon of neem oil and a good healthy squirt of dish soap to every gallon of water.
Okay.
Why you rolling your eyes at that?
No, it was motorcycles or like buggies or some sort revving up.
I thought you were rolling your eyes about me saying a healthy squirt. And I'm like, come on now, I don't know the exact measurement. But this
I actually missed a little bit of that based on the outdoor noise, but I used my context clues to put it together.
Well, I'm going to help you out too. So dish soap and water is also a very good treatment for aphids. You don't believe me?
No, I believe you so much so where I, around this time of year, actually have a spray bottle that I normally carry outside. So in my garden walks, I take my garden apron. And there are a couple of things that I always keep on me. And at this time of year, that's one of them. It's a little bitty spray bottle. So. And
it's got dish soap and water in it?
Yep.
Yeah. So, and to be exact, before we get messages, I use an unscented, quote unquote unscented, Dawn, DAWN dish soap. It's like 50 cents for the bottle. And I just keep it out in my shed. So,
yeah.
I was taking the bottle from inside the house, but my wife told me if I kept leaving the dish soap outside that I was going to have to do dishes forever. And I said, I will be back. And I went and got it. And it never went outside again. So.
Yeah.
But it's a pretty straightforward fix. You know what I mean? And I think it's a testament to how, pests don't have to be overly complicated sometimes.
Yeah. So I was just looking up. It looks like the issue is they suck the juices from the leaves, which a lot of these itty bitty plants do. Like all of these plants aren't just eating away, all of these pests aren't just eating away at your plants. Like they're sucking the sap out of them, and it's probably a longer path to damage, if you will.
Yeah, I think it's. Honestly, I think it's one of those things where it's worse than leaf chewing because you don't notice it until it's like, oh shit, half of my plant's gone.
Yeah.
So
I could be the ass, and I'm like, well, if you're doing your garden walks, you would notice it. But the reality is, a lot of these things sit on the undersides of leaves.
Yeah.
Right. I found a Japanese beetle today, and it was just kind of luckily on the top of a leaf. I think they really like the tops of leaves, Japanese beetles in particular. But anyway, a lot of these other itty bitty tiny insects and pests, they sit on the underside of the leaves. And just think about how many leaves a lot of your plants have.
Yeah. You're not going to check them all.
Once you have a full-on infestation, they're going to be covering a lot of leaves. But at the beginning, everything starts small.
Yeah. Well, see, and I mean, if you think about it, if you're doing your walks, I can think in my head of right now of 10 different areas that I'm watching daily to see if it changes. And that could be a specific leaf or a specific section of a plant. But I'm thinking right now, those are the things that I have in my head that I know that I need to look out for. So,
yeah,
if I see any change, then it triggers.
The interesting part of that is your garden and my garden are in two different stages. And so my watchful eye is more of like, I'm enamored by, oh, look at that. That has to be a whole foot of growth since the last time I looked at you, right? So I'm making sure just at a cursory glance that things haven't gone to shit. I'm probably neglectful in like inspecting, because I'm probably 2 weeks off of like feeling like my real big work is done. So I'm still like in vacation mode. I'm still kind of relaxing, and it's a danger, right? Because I just happened to pause and see the Japanese beetle, and another few days, and guess what's going to happen? They're coming into the house. No. Anyway.
They're going to start playing music and having parties out there.
Yeah.
You're going to be out there with a bucket talking about bing, 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 right into the water. So, well, look, I know that you have expressed that there are 2 different stages in our gardens, and I would love more than anything to get into that. So let's take this break, and let's come right back, and we're going to talk about our garden update for July. A lot of y'all asked, how can you help support the Backyard Gardens podcast? Well, we have been busy, and we have created a t-shirt line just for the gardener.
To visit our shop, go to the link in the show notes and check out the t-shirts and other goodies we have.
Now, these are super special t-shirts designed just for the gardener, so enjoy. Thank you for supporting the Backyard Gardens podcast, and we'll see you guys after the harvest. And before we get started, really started, I just want to say, if you have Japanese beetle issues or you need fertilizer or anything, click on the link below, and that'll take you to our new Amazon store where we have all the products that we recommend for you to use, and we more than likely have used in our gardens. Now, on to this regular scheduled program. Even though we were never clicked, but... Yeah, so, what's going on in your garden, Batavia? Because mine is off the charts.
Yeah, I'm super duper pleased. I have gotten to the point now where everything has like real growth.
Yeah.
Right. So my garden was planted just barely a month ago, meaning like my summer veggies were planted just barely a month ago. So everything that went out that looked kind of small has gotten some real growth. Like they're viable plants now. You know how sometimes when you transplant things out, you're like, oh, well, okay, I had to pull that out. Like it for one reason or another, it didn't make it. I can see everything that's viable now. I did have to come back around and pull a couple of things, but that actually goes back to the spring garden more so than the summer. So things are also, though, at the very, very green stage. Little or nothing has set flowers yet. And it definitely hasn't set fruit yet for my summer veggies. So basically, I'm just looking at a whole bunch of plants that look the same, which is all good, So.
Yeah, it takes a minute. So you are a little bit behind me.
Yeah,
which is understandable. But I think last year I was late, so we were actually kind of running neck and neck. And this year, since I got my act together and there wasn't this huge pandemic to take my mind off of it, I getting out there. But I am fruiting, and I'm waiting on ripening right now. So
that's exciting, man. It's one of the best parts of I think.
No, to me, it's frustrating.
Is probably the best part for me.
It's frustrating to me when you're waiting for it to ripen, because those first ripening, it's like, damn. But then it kind of comes fast and heavy. So, my indeterminate tomatoes, man, they're pumping. You know what I mean? They're about to hit 9 feet tall. So I'm going to top them soon, very soon.
That's wild. I mean, what are they? They were planted like, it's not 2 months ago.
April 15th.
Okay. Well, yeah.
I put them outside.
Okay. 2.5 months. That's right.
Yeah. We have like, I count, Kelly's like, how many tomatoes you got out there? I went out there and counted. I was like, we got 75 tomatoes.
Oh, that's wild, man.
It's crazy, and we have stink bug damage too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Flowers are at the point now where they're starting to actually bloom. Things that I started indoors, as well as like perennials, like we're starting to see flower heads now, which is cool.
Yeah.
We had some really cool, like low temperatures in the 50s here in Chicago, which we're going to have this conversation every like ending of June. I can't believe that it gets this cold in Chicago in June. So the balance there, though, is the weather hasn't still consistently been hot, if you will.
Right.
And so I have to keep that in mind when it comes to some of these plants. Peppers, tomatoes, things like that love this heat, And so we're getting there, but we're not quite there yet, which also gives me some balance when it comes to not being so hard on myself in May. So I'm feeling pretty good. I'm going back now 2 months, and I have time on my hands now because all of my big garden tours and projects are done. So I'm kind of just waiting.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing too, is once you get caught up on all your big chores and stuff, and you can kind of sit back and look. Like, I don't know about you, but for me, it's like, okay, I need to change this. I need to change that. I need to add this. I need to add that. Let me start this seed and that seed and do this. So, I've been fighting the squash vine borer. Mm-hmm. And as of today, I yawn because it's exhausting. The squash vine borer has taken 2 of my plants.
Okay.
And I have 3 left. I have 3 started in cups, seedlings, and I have 3 more that I started later in the garden. So we have some wiggle room.
Yeah. With
them, but I think you asked me earlier, like, when am I just going to give up? I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep fighting. I'm fighting the good fight. To
be fair, you answered quickly, and my question was more of, when are you going to consider a different variety, and if that could be helpful?
Yeah.
Right. So I know that I'm going to call it traditional zucchini is what you're having a lot of trouble with. Are all of them zucchini, all of your squash plants?
No, I have a summer squash. I have a Ford Hook zucchini. I have a Desi squash. I have a winter pumpkin and butternut squash. And so I bring up the winter pumpkin in reference to what you just said to me. Mm-hmm. And I want to make this very clear. When you read that the squash vine borer does not like butternut squash or pumpkins, I'm going to say bullshit, because last year they tore up my butternut squash, and this year he is all up in my pumpkin, all up in my pumpkin. So, and I didn't even protect it because I was like, ain't no worries. Mm-hmm. I ain't got nothing to worry about. This thing is good to go. And it's not good to go. So I don't think there is a variety that is resistant to it. And if there is, it's got some good ass drugs in it.
Yeah, I don't know that there is either, but it's in my mind, it's let's try something different. I'm actually, interestingly enough, waiting on my neighbor. I carved out a space for him to grow. He loves squash, right? And I carved out a space for him to plant and grow. And I would have planted it for him, but it was pretty clear like he wanted to kind of, start it from the beginning and all the way to the end. And so I'm kind of like, well, and it's killing me. Like, I'm looking at this empty space. I already have some squash planted in containers in the backyard. So the reality is this isn't slowing down actually getting to the veggies. And I could almost take or leave squash anyway. Yeah. But I am still looking at this empty spot, like, all right, brother, what are we going to do here? So we're supposed to be planting it this week. And in my mind, I'm saying like a minute, drop a seed, water, and we're done. But,
yeah. And then are you going to water it for him, or is he going to come by and water it?
Well, at this rate, based on what it's taken to get to the point of actually planting, it's pretty clear I'll tend to the plants, which is fine. Yeah. That's what I expected.
Yeah. And I'm with you about squash and all that, but part of me it says summer to me. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. A good old summer squash and a good old zucchini just says summer.
Yeah.
And we didn't have it for years, and it just always felt like there was a gaping hole.
Yeah, yeah.
In our garden. So that's why this year I'm like, no, we're going to do something, So this Desi, DESI squash that I have, I don't know anything about it. I know I have some seeds, and I know I put it out there and it's growing. So we'll see what happens, but it's tricky. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, we've talked about this before. If I had this trouble with tomato plants, I'd be out there with my surgical mask on, and I'd be figuring it out. I'd be continuing to try. So I get it.
Well, it's a challenge. That's the thing too. It's a challenge, and imagine if you could crack the code to something that is literally the bane of every gardener's existence. You know what I mean? Like the tinfoil method, like that's bullshit. You can check the video that's out on YouTube right now that I did about it, because I literally have every day gone out and watched this plants and followed and tracked how these squash vine borers are getting in. And I figured it out. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now that aluminum foil method on the stem, it's a help, but it's not the way to get in.
Yeah.
So...
Oh, I'm saying, because we talked about this, right?
Yeah,
and I've seen the video.
Yeah, we have.
So, I mean, there still is that little inkling in me that says everything isn't meant to grow everywhere.
Yeah, so that would be the entire East Coast you're not allowed to have. And I wonder, too, how is it that farms can produce it on the East Coast? You know what I mean? Like... I don't understand. Like, I mean, they must have a bad squash vine borer population, because I just don't get it. You know what I mean? And you can't cover all of it. So unless they spray the crap out of it, probably. So
yeah, I was waiting on you to get there. I was actually very close.
I was trying not to go there. I was trying to be nice and, like, in my mind, like, the farmer that produces food for the grocery store, like, it's perfect. It's got a red barn and an old rundown fence, and Johnny's sitting there with his fishing pole walking down, and they got the cow tilling the field. In my mind, that's how it was, and then the reality kicked in.
No, it's nice to visit that place, though. That's fine. I was very tempted. I have some bok choy, a second sowing of bok choy that's bolting. And I mean, there's only like 4 or 5 plants, nothing big. And so when I was going to pull them out of the container, and I said, I'll plant some squash here because it's undercover right now. But then I paused and said, well, shit, you'll have to hand pollinate. And I ain't about that life, Yeah. So I said, well, nope, not going to do that. But can we move off of squash?
We can.
Yeah.
We can. It's such an important part of my garden that you're ruining my update.
Wait. I don't know that I'm ruining the update, given we talk about squash daily in one way or another. So tell me more about what you're harvesting now from your garden. Anything that you feel like it's earlier than normal, or?
It's funny you say that. So I will say one good thing about Instagram is that there is always a dated record of when, depending on what you put on there, but I have been able to go back and look at certain things and say, well, this is the first time that I at least posted a picture of this or that. And my tomatoes are about on time. I've gotten like 10 cucumbers so far, so we're 1,000% better than we were last year.
Yeah.
So
it was like 0 last year, right?
Yeah, and I think I came to a revelation too. I grow a lot of bush beans, and I'm really bad about harvesting from them. Every time I go to harvest them, it's too late. They've gotten too big. So I don't know if I'm going to keep doing bush beans every year.
Oh, interesting.
I might back off of that. It's kind of a pain in the ass. So,
I mean, it is disappointing. I have had that struggle as well, but I'm pretty certain you plant a lot more bush beans. I mean, you don't bother with the runner beans just because of the longer season and the space, right? That's why typically you go with bush beans, right?
What do you mean runner bean? Like pole beans?
Pole beans, yeah.
Yeah, I have pole beans. That's what I focus on. But I can plant my bush beans earlier and get a harvest sooner. So that's what I kind of start off with bush beans and then go to my pole beans. But this year, I just kind of like, man, I don't know. I just can't stay on top of them. You know what I mean? So, and I think what I'm going to go do now is I'm going to take every other plant out. So it opens up a little bit more space. Because, I mean, at this point, like, there's still time for me to put something else in its space.
Yeah, that's a good note. But also remember that your garden is bigger than it was last year. I know this is a challenge it sounds like you have every year, but it's going to be multiplied based on a larger garden. So maybe not more bush bean plants, but just more plants.
Yeah, so. Well, if I take that section right there, it's, let's say it's 6... It might be 4 feet by 2 feet, and I can put parsnips in its place, or even carrots. And it's a low grower, so it won't block sun for anything. It'll be a while before it comes up, so it'll allow that airflow to come in, because that's the same bed as my eggplants and my cucumbers.
Oh, gotcha.
And that will allow the airflow to get in there, so I can hopefully not have powdery mildew as early. So
yeah,
that's my plan.
Cucumbers and even eggplants, those are leafy, like a lot of
boy.
leafy vegetables. So yeah, airflow would be an issue. Tell me about your ground cherries, because I need people to hear what you said about them, because when I'm running out and planting them next year, I don't want to be alone.
What did I tell you? I forgot.
Well, we were talking about what you harvested. This is like yesterday or something, and you mentioned ground cherries, and I'm like, tell me what do ground cherries taste like?
Oh yeah, they taste like pineapples. They taste like it's not like just like a pineapple, but it's very similar to a pineapple flavor. And we make jelly out of them.
That's the variety you have. They're different varieties of, it's all one thing?
Every ground cherry I've had tastes like a pineapple.
That's just glorious.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And I told you the story about the first time I had them.
I don't remember, but I do have some
told you this
ground
story.
cherry seeds.
Yeah, so I went, we were living in New England at the time, and we were buying all of our food at the farmer's market or on a roadside stand or something. We never went in the grocery store. And I was also growing at the same time, but I wasn't growing enough at the time.
Sure.
So I went, and the guy was like, hey, you want to buy some husk tomatoes? And I was like, excuse me? And he's like, you want to buy some husk tomatoes? And I'm like, I don't even know what you're saying. And he said, husk tomato. And I was like, oh, I don't know what that is. So he's like, I tell you what, I'll give you one, and if you don't like it, you can have anything you want for free. I said, okay. So he gave me one, and I said, I'll take 5 pounds. And he goes, how about this? I'll give you 2 pounds for free. Just come back. I said, okay. And ever since then, I've grown them every year. And you can't find them anywhere down here. It's not a very common thing. But I will say this, it is very common amongst gardeners to grow. So I had this conversation with my mom yesterday about tomatoes, which is very interesting.
Okay. Are you telling us about that?
They're Better Boy beefsteak. That's it.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
what they do. That's what they grow. And I'm like, Mom, there's like hundreds and hundreds of varieties of tomatoes. And she was like, really? And I'm like, yeah, Mom, that's like a thing. She's like, when you go to the grocery store, I'm like, well, here we go with the grocery store talk. So that's just one of them. And they're great because you don't even pick them off of the plant. You wait for them to fall. That's why they're called ground cherries. So
yeah, that's actually one of the reasons why I did not grow them this year. I got the seeds with the intention of growing them, but then I'm just like, I don't want to have to fight with who over them falling on the ground. Although when I grew tomatillos a couple of years, like last year, that happened often. And since they're in the husk, they really weren't bothered. Like I didn't see anything bothering them, things with legs or, smaller pests. So I think there's a place for them in the cage baby next year. Mark my words.
Yeah, you should definitely grow about 4 plants of them.
Oh, now wait, I can't just grow one?
No, you need to, because you're going to grow one and be like, damn, I need more. I guarantee you will, because they're like candy. It's like crack. Okay. I mean, when your 7-year-old son, which when he was 6, 5, and 4, he'd be like, can I take some of those tomatoes to school for lunch? You're like, yes, you may. That tells you that they are good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and I don't like tomatoes. So that's my thing. So.
Yeah, I was just on, we were on Instagram talking about sweet peas, they're done now. But, the sweet peas the vegetable sweet peas versus the flower that I planted in the beginning of April. And so I literally got 2 handfuls of peas, but they were the best peas I have ever had. I eat sweet peas. I'm not crazy about them, but it was a staple growing up. And I'll put them in some dishes. I probably have a bag in the freezer or something. And so someone commented and said, is it really, in all caps, worth the trouble of shelling the peas? right? And so it's such a great question. It's kind of like, oh yeah, this is cool, but when you think about you having 100 pods if you're lucky, is it really worth that? And my answer was, I am a person that was, when I was a child, was near tears, sitting on the porch shelling peas, breaking up beans, shelling beans. And I was near tears because my friends, I could see them, were off playing and laughing, running around, and I was stuck shelling peas and beans and such. And so with that in mind, knowing that background, I absolutely say they're still worth it. This person's grandson wants to grow them. And if I had had a chance to shell green peas or sweet peas back then, maybe I wouldn't have been crying because, they were just that sweet. So,
well, I commented as well on that same comment, and I agree with you. Mm-hmm. So we actually sit around. My granny, she's 92 years old. Mm-hmm. Every year, she goes to the farm because her family, which now is like, I don't even know what part of family it is, but it's like her family, her kinfolk is they still live on a farm. So every fall she goes out and they let her say, here's a row of peas, pick what you want. And she goes out there and she picks her peas and she sits around and everybody sits around the table and they got a big bowl in the middle and they shell and talk and laugh and have a good time. And some people might drink a little wine. Some people might have a little bit of white lightning or something. You never know, but that's just how it is, and it's part of it. And that's, that's where, I was telling Miss Gardner about it. I was like, that is part of the Gardner lifestyle, where you find joys in other things and those old school traditions. You know what I mean? That was a thing, like going to a quilting bee.
Yeah, there's some there are like kind of quirky traditions like that for my family. Again, I'm standing by. I was in near tears in the middle of the summer or end of summer, like instead of playing, doing that. But things like that. It sucks when
you're a kid. Nobody wants to do that shit.
Yeah. Christmas cards. We used to it was a whole deal to write out Christmas cards. And then also wrapping Christmas presents. I can remember when I knew I was like so mature because originally I would just be able to wrap the kids' presents because if I effed it up, it didn't really matter because it's kids' presents. But when I got promoted to wrapping adult presents, you couldn't tell me anything. I could have ruled the world back then. So anyway.
Well, see, and you're a girl. You probably can wrap presents pretty good, can't you?
You stay there, don't you? Like... It has nothing to do with my girl parts.
Every woman that I have ever known is like the best gift wrapper. And then I show up because, the missus is at work or something one day and I have to wrap something. Everybody's like, where was she at? I'm like, she went home. Yeah, we can tell. I'm like, damn, the present's just as good inside. It's not about the wrapping.
I can't even begin to break down everything that's wrong with all of that. So I'm not going to.
Hey, look, I get shamed a lot about my gift wrapping ability, but that's okay. And when they made bags at the Dollar Tree.
That's what I was just going to say. Like, there's a whole, movement on let's move away from wrapping paper and move to gift bags for that exact reason.
But, and when you go to the grocery store, you know how they sell ears of corn? And a lot of times people will stand around and, shuck them beforehand. Next time you go in the grocery store, watch those people. See what they're doing. I guarantee you they're sitting there, shucking the corn. And also having a little conversation at the same time and with total strangers. Don't know them for nothing.
Why would I need to watch those people when I am those people?
Well, okay. But you know what I'm saying? Like, if you take yourself out of it, it's just a natural thing. Everybody just sits there and talk.
Yeah, absolutely.
Your little 5-minute conversation. But it's just one of those things. So
absolutely. It's a great observation. I was just at the grocery store recently, and I won't go into the detail of it, but I told the guy, this is a employee, I've been shopping for 35 years, and that's no exaggeration. I've been going to the grocery store at some point back in the day weekly, so I'm very familiar with the ins and outs of what happens at the grocery store. And I'm like, but I've never heard those tips. So yeah, it is that moment of like, okay, all right. The meat counter, the seafood counter, as people wait, that's also a moment when people exchange pleasantries. But the shucking of corn is a great one. But I do want to make sure I fit in a couple of things as far as some of my struggle updates. Ready? So spring, as the spring crops kind of come to an end, those that are ending, all in all was a win. But I did have some struggle vegetables, namely broccoli, which I did not enjoy a single head of broccoli. I planted 6 plants.
We're not even talking about broccoli today.
Yeah, they all bolted. They went from like it's the avocado or bananas. If you guys are buying bananas from the grocery store, you can buy a banana that looks like has a tinge of green, get to your car. If you run one errand, by the time you get home, that banana is like all brown and mushy. Like, I don't know what happens. Same thing with cutting an avocado. Cut an avocado, go to the sink, come back, the thing's done. Anyway, I blinked and the broccoli heads bolted. But luckily, your girl is not going to waste it if she can help her waste it. I ended up cooking up the broccoli leaves. I also had great success with cauliflower. So it looks like 2 of the 6 that I planted are going to be beautiful.
You just glossed over the broccoli leaves.
Well, I'm about to come back around.
No, you can't be doing that.
Trust the process. Trust the process.
The process hurts.
Yeah. So harvested cauliflower. Beautiful head of cauliflower. And so since I left those broccoli plants in place for this goal, so basically harvested the broccoli leaves and cauliflower leaves, cut them up and cooked them up as I would a pot of Southern collards. And they cooked for a long fucking time, man. They are not nearly as tender as collard leaves, which is fine. And I'm gonna, do I want to give it on a scale? I'm going to say if collards were a 10, these were like around a 7.
Dude, that's a solid number.
Yeah.
So, should I tell everybody about me eating broccoli leaves?
Yeah, you should.
So, Batavia, she had posted something one day, and I was like, damn it. I was like, Batavia, your collards get so big. And I was like, I don't know if I'm planting the wrong thing. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. And I was like, oh, but I got this one that's doing really good. And I remember she and I were sitting there talking about it. And I mean, I had been eating off of this plant for months. And it turns out it was a damn broccoli plant. And I looked in the middle and I was like, hold on, it's forming a head. I'm like, damn, we've been sitting here eating on this broccoli the whole time, eating the leaves and all. And I remember that sometimes we would eat and it would be a little tough. And I wasn't like really thinking about it. I was like, oh, maybe it was just something. But yeah, the damn broccoli. But so that being said, I ate broccoli leaves all winter. And I got to say, they're not that bad.
No, I wouldn't even say bad. I think that if they were younger, they probably would be a little bit more tender. So these broccoli leaves, when I harvested them, would have been about, from the point of transplant, 2.5 months old. So this is probably 2 weeks past the point of the broccoli heads bolting. So if you think about kind of age of the plant and, kind of how it progresses. So with that said, and I was talking about this on a YouTube video that I did, someone commented like, it's too bad about the broccoli. Are you going to give it another try? And it's similar to your zucchini. Like, I'm not going to let it beat me. This is the part where insert stubborn Batavia. It's so, especially knowing that I can still enjoy the leaves if push comes to shove. So I think I'm going to try it again this fall, but for sure with a couple of steps, I'm going to try it again next spring as well. So not all bad. Broccoli, I know it's, as much as I love gardening, I feel like I'm continually saying like, I could take or leave, insert vegetable. I can take or leave broccoli. But I was really looking forward to it, to be quite frank.
But at the same time, like if you think about it, and this is going to open up that whole thing we were talking about yesterday that we're going to do an episode on.
That we didn't want to talk about?
Yeah, that we didn't want to talk about, but we're going to talk about a little bit. So when it comes to space in your garden, and in these certain times, you might have extra space. And if you don't know what to grow, like, why not throw a broccoli in? You know,
Yeah.
why not throw insert vegetable? But the thing is broccoli is a very heavy feeder. And from what I understand, farmers actually do not like to grow it because it's a kind of a pain to grow.
Yeah, so this is, and we're not going to right size this one. My bed is 7.5 by 4 feet.
Fuck no. You told me it was 7 by 4 yesterday. You grew a half inch.
Yeah,
you grew a half
it 7
inch
by
every
4.
night.
I think it's 7/14. It would have been a 14-inch board cut in half, so it's 7.
That's 7 feet.
Yeah,
well, no, that would be okay. Well, close enough.
Yeah, so let's call it 7 by 4. Anyway, I said that to say, based on my planting, I did a really super good job with spacing my brassicas in that bed. I now have half the bed that's empty because I've pulled 4 of those plants out. You know, and so actually 5 plants because I pulled a cauliflower plant out. Yeah, so 4 broccoli plants, 1 cauliflower plant. It's all relative because the broccoli didn't perform, right? But the cauliflower did, and I have no issue with the space the cauliflower took up. It is the same space, you know. But I've just basically said, because this is my first time actually ever harvesting cauliflower. I would always start it in the summer.
You like cauliflower?
I like cauliflower. Yeah, I'm not anti like you are when it comes to cauliflower.
I like cauliflower one way and one way only.
Cauliflower rice?
No, hell no.
I know, that's the funniest part.
Talk about a letdown when I had that the first time. No, I like cauliflower wings,
oh yeah.
cooked like chicken wings. I like that.
But okay, so let me just take a minute there, because cauliflower, for me, anything that forms a head, and I know that you can get side shoots from some broccoli plants. I get all of that, right? But anything that forms a head like that, which is kind of like one and done. Once you harvest that head, you're basically done with the plant. Putting aside eating the leaves, once that, it feels like for my size space, it's not the best use of my space. Now, the reason why I'll continue to grow things like that, like cabbage, is because all things considered, I do have enough space to kind of plant some, I hate to say throwaway plants, but plant some things that aren't as efficient as others, right? So pound for pound, I could put a tomato plant there and get way more vegetables than I can if I planted broccoli. Like, that's the bottom line of it. But I only need to plant so many tomato plants, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah. Well, so first of all, broccoli doesn't grow the same time as tomatoes. So let's get that out of the way.
Well, you know what I mean.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. We have to think about it analytical. Our listeners deserve better.
Wait, no, let me do a better job at that. I could have put, now you're being an ass, but I'm going to go back and I'm going to restate that. I could have put another collard plant because, again, it's going to drinking game anytime she says collards. And gotten way more harvest out of that than I did broccoli. But at the same time, and I recognize it, at the same time, it's still intriguing to me. And it's diverse.
Don't you ever take the words out of my mouth again, young lady.
Every time I will.
I was just about to say, and it's diversifying your garden.
Absolutely.
But, and seriously, and I know what your answer is going to be, and I want you to try and answer me seriously. Mm-hmm. How much collards can you really eat? I mean, let's just be honest, okay?
So it's a great point. So there's a part. So for me, I have more than enough collards planted right now. And I probably have around 10 or 12 plants. More than enough for me. More than enough for me to share with my uncle who can take or leave them, who enjoys them. But more than enough for me to share with my mom, like once I've cooked them up, right? But I am also a gardener that's considering my friends, right? So there are a couple of friends that I have, one's like, her husband only eats, it's pescatarian like you, only eats fish, eats a lot of vegetables. So bell peppers are a great source for her. They're super expensive in the store. I have another girlfriend that 2nd grade we go back to, and every picture I post, she's like, are those greens? Are those greens? Yeah. And so I want to be able to gift those to her as well. And I don't want to feel like I'm going without my favorite leafy green. So that's the answer for collards in particular.
So, I mean, because we eat a lot of broccoli, and at the same time, so I will say this, in my area, if I grow broccoli, it is strongly recommended that I grow broccoli in the fall because it's not doing anything but cooling down the entire time. Okay. So when we say that, when it's cooling down, that means the more mature it gets, the more mature heads forming. It's getting cool at the same time, which is keeping it more compact and it's keeping it from bolting. So every spring I planted, every spring it bolts. And you know what I'm going to do next spring? I'm going to plant it again. And you know what I'm going to do the next spring? I'm going to plant it again. I'm going to try every year because that's what I do. Because what is it for me to start a seed? You know what I mean? Yeah. Hell, I'm even going to grow 3 types of broccoli next year. Damn it. I've got the Waltham broccoli is what I usually grow, which is a space saver. I'm going to try a Calabrese broccoli. And then a Yod Fa broccoli is something else that I got, which is very weird looking. But those are the 3 types that we're going to try and grow and see, which ones we can get to produce better because the Waltham is not really producing the way we want, apparently. So we're going to try it out.
So I'd like to share this bit. I am trying the exclusive vigorous early broccoli with a nutty sweet flavor. Large central heads are followed by multiple side shoots with extended harvest.
What are you talking about?
Strong disease resistance and great garden performance. That, my friend, is the early heading broccoli Batavia. So clearly, there's no way I could stop growing broccoli when there is a Batavia variety of broccoli. So
I am now growing one more time of broccoli too. I'm going to grow Batavia broccoli in my garden. Thank you for asking.
You hear that?
Damn it. I mean, whoever made that broccoli is just spot on.
I wonder maybe in a past lifetime, do you think maybe I made it in a past lifetime? Nah. I just don't. Okay. Well.
That would be too romantic.
I think 5 years from now when we're doing this podcast and we talk about this broccoli, I think the story is going to turn into that.
We're going to have to delete this episode now, so enjoy it while you can. But no, it's just one of those things where and this, because the reason why I'm talking about it is because I am currently preparing my fall garden. So I am starting seeds as we speak weekly, getting ready for a fall garden. So, and the broccoli is one of the first ones that you plant because the bigger it is, the better chances you have of getting it. Because as you know, when you start a fall garden, you ain't got time to mess around. You got to be on point, because that freeze date's coming.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I was just, so for the seeds you're planting, starting indoors now, what's the earliest?
I knew you would go directly into that.
That's the way my mind works, right? It's like, it's the project manager in me. Like I'm looking at a timeline here. So what's the earliest? So this airs July the 1st. You're starting seeds now. What's the earliest you're going to transplant something out?
So based on the different combinations of the way I'm planting into my yard, I will probably start around August 1st to 15th, somewhere in there.
Okay.
And to be exact, what those would be Brussels sprouts and chard. Those will be the earlier ones because they are, Brussels sprouts are, and my area is supposed to put out early. And chard is a little bit more heat tolerant. And if I put them in a space that I'm going to do some heat management techniques, then we should be cooking with some peanut oil.
Okay.
And I'm going to be seeding carrots at the same time.
Okay. Yeah, I was just trying to get the gauge of, like, we're talking about a fall garden and how much indoor growing time are you letting these plants have? And it sounds spot on,
Yeah.
So at the earliest, I guess from where we are today, you are looking more like at the low end 6 weeks. I'm with you. I ended up going too far because you forced me to on broccoli. But earlier in the year, I talked about how I was trying to succession plant some of my brassicas because I didn't want to get them all at the same time. Someone remind me that's not what I should do next spring, right? Figure out what to do with 6 heads of broccoli. It's not that hard, right? Go ahead and plant them all at the same time. So the earliest broccoli that I planted bolted. Going back to broccoli, I have the same trouble with some of the cabbage, right? So there was a pause that I had when I was doing this, thinking every 2 weeks I'm planting something different, and I'm getting closer and closer to summer, right? So closer and closer to this vegetable saying I haven't had enough time before this heat comes in and I'm going to bolt. And that's ultimately what happened. So I don't know. I spent these are the seedlings I started or I bought too. So it's a $20 lesson, I guess.
Well, and that's how it works. But so what I would do if I were you, so like for me, like I put out my broccoli in March this year. I'm going to now put my broccoli out in February. So we'll get a warm spell in February. I will start hardening it off and just give it more time out there. You know what I mean? There's no way that, I might have to do some cold management at that point, you know, and I do plan, I do plan to get something to kind of easily cover an area. You know what I mean? Like if I need, like I'm consolidating my fall garden into one space, well, one main space, and we're going to go over that in detail over time. But I want to have something that, even if it's just a tarp, something that's dedicated for that space that say, okay, I throw it over there really quickly and it's done. You know what I mean? That would just make all the difference in the world, because if I have something that's dedicated for that situation, then I will go out and cover it. But if I got to go out there and get every single towel in my house and all the blankets and take the blanket off my son's bed, because I ain't giving up my blanket, he's just going to have to be cold, then, I'm never going to do it. You know what I mean? It's just such a pain in this, because then I got to come back and do all that laundry. So
I know we spent a lot of time on broccoli and brassicas and spring vegetables, but we're right in that middle period where things are happening for summer. But guess what? We're planning for fall. And like you said, we don't have a whole lot of time to play around with. So quick internet search, broccoli can survive. And this is just an average as low as about 26 degrees Fahrenheit. It looks like it does best, which is key, between 40 and 70. So that's something to think about when you talk about, like, I'm going to plant it earlier. The reality is you could be putting plants out there and protecting them somewhat, but if they're not actually going to take off, you're really not benefiting yourself. So again, that's the thing you got to kind of play around with. I'm probably going to go earlier next year as well. Not February early, but earlier than April the 4th or whenever I planted this year.
Yeah. Even a couple weeks can make all the difference in the world. Either way, good or bad. And so, you say like, oh, okay, it's July, we're talking about this, but you know what? That's my garden update. That's what's going on in my garden. You know what I mean? You like it or leave it. I don't care. That's what I'm doing. Like I have literally spent the past 4 days starting seeds, and I will spend the next 4 days starting seeds. I'll spend the next couple of weeks, but and that's because right now there's a lull period. I'm not harvesting a whole lot right now. I am starting to. My pests are management. I'm using my management techniques. I'm spraying every couple, weeks. I'm just keeping an eye on them. I'm cleaning up for airflow. So, it is what it is. You know what I mean? And I feel, and I honestly, I feel like these spring and fall vegetables get more attention from gardeners because you have more opportunities to grow them. Yeah,
I think basically potentially twice a year in most places, right? I think, though, the reason why I like to talk about this now, and like that we're talking about it now, is it provides an opportunity to fill a gap, if you will, in activity, right? And also, I've told you before we even met how many years I completely flopped trying to get into the fall because I wasn't getting the timing right. I wasn't thinking about what I wanted to plant and grow. I wasn't thinking about it in June to start in July and so on and so forth. Every time I've failed at broccoli and cauliflower before, it's because I was stowing seeds in June and July directly into the garden, right? I know better now, so I'm going to do better. And I have 50 recipes for cauliflower, and clearly I have to grow at least 50 heads of cauliflower because I got to try all of those.
Well, and you know what the good thing about these vegetables is they don't take up a lot of space.
I disagree. I think they do.
A square foot for a head of broccoli?
Yeah. Going back to we're not going to comment on, you could get more spinach out of that space than you can a head of broccoli. Have you ever
seen the side shoots that can come off of a head of broccoli?
No, I haven't.
They can be rather sizable. Sometimes half of the size of the original head.
Okay.
So now, and I will say this, You can have that, or you can have that little bullshit that you get at the store in the frozen section. All those little florets. Then a lot of times that's what you'll get too. But there are varieties, and I can't remember off the top of my head, that when the side shoots come, they are sizable side shoots. You just have to have the time to grow them. That's the key. So, before the heat or the freezing comes. But
I'm not going to accept those as my choices.
You're not?
Nope.
Okay. Now, I will say this. Tomatoes, yes, you do get a lot of tomatoes, but I mean, dude, your garden's 4 square feet is tied up with tomatoes, for each plant. That's a lot.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I do feel like a little bit of a hypocrite in that moment, but yeah.
That's okay. You know what? You're allowed to speak off the cuff in this show. That's okay. We support that.
Well, thanks for letting me know that was okay, because I was really concerned.
We like apology episodes as well. So carry on.
Well, stay tuned, guys and gals, because many more to be had.
So, but yeah, it's weird for some people to think about, like, okay, it's July. I don't even care about fall, but it's 6 weeks out. You know what I mean? And I know that I'm a little ahead of like some people, but you have to think I'm also going to be cooling my garden off this fall to try and get a head start. So, that's a big portion of it. But I think it's important that if people want to have productive, active gardens, that you have to stay proactive.
Yeah.
And that's part of it. And I mean, look, I was sad to start my seeds so early and be like, damn, I'm already wanting it to go away. But part of me, I like fall gardening personally, because it's not so damn hot outside. You know what I'm saying?
Yep, I know what you're saying.
So is there anything else going on in your garden, Batavia?
Everything is looking pretty good. Corn is getting up to, the stalks are getting up to size. Potatoes, I feel like, Adrian, I know you're listening, and I feel like I'm jinxing myself, right? Like the Purple Thumb Gardener. I feel good about them. I still have to go back and check to see when the Colorado beetle struck my potatoes last year. I'm pretty sure I'm not past it. It's probably still ahead of me. Tomatoes are slow but moving. I mean, things are looking good and feeling good. I feel good for my summer garden in particular.
Good.
Containers all over the place, growing all kinds of things. It's good stuff.
You know what? I forgot to say one thing. I planted corn.
I forgot about that too.
Yeah, I planted corn last week, and damn if it ain't coming up.
Yeah.
Part of me was like, I'll plant it and it won't come up, and then I can just, get the misses off my back about growing corn. Damn it, it came up. So I'm a corn farmer now. And I'm also harvesting my garlic and onions this week. I'm just kind of tired of waiting on them.
Yeah. I don't know.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I pulled a couple test garlics up, and I wasn't overly impressed with what is going on underneath there. So I'm like, you know what? It's a good time for me to pull it. I can put something else there. You know what I mean? If I don't have a decent head forming now within the next 2 weeks, of which it would be harvest time, it's not going to form a head that fast. So,
yeah,
it's just take it what it is. So what I'll do is if they don't form a good head, what I'll do is I'll just dry them out and replant them next year somewhere else and just keep trying.
So I don't remember if I shared this here, so I will say it for the record just in case I didn't. Not a single clove of garlic germinated, sprouted. Did I share it? Okay. So if you didn't hear that episode, none of my garlic from October came up.
Yeah, which is rude.
Yeah.
But the company took care of it, right?
Yeah. They refunded the money, and this year I'm going straight grocery store garlic. I'm not gonna fuss around with it.
Yeah, I probably am going to do the same. I didn't do it last year, but it's just easier and way cheaper. I am going to buy organic garlic.
Yeah,
but,
agreed.
Yeah, and I probably won't plant mine until December.
No, I'll get it in there earlier, but it's less. The issue I have with ordering it, and it's not to say that you can't order garlic and it'd be fine, because hundreds of thousands of trillions of people are doing it. It's just like, to really get the deal, it needs to be a minimum of X, and that's generally more garlic than I would want to plant, So I was kind of like, I went And the same thing with potatoes. I ended up going with buying more than I wanted, and it's kind of a pain. So I'm just going to go with what I think I want to grow, get them from the grocery store, and see what happens.
Well, when you grow garlic, I mean, how much do you want to grow?
I'm not sure yet.
Just a couple cloves?
No, more than a couple cloves. I have a 2x4 bed, and I have a 36-inch bed, like round cylinder. And both of those spaces, I think, are good spots for it.
So you'd fill that up completely with garlic?
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, it's important too when you're thinking about these things. And I mean, not you necessarily or anybody, but for me to remember, like, somebody asked me, like, well, what are you going to do with all those turnips when you grow them? Well, it's like, shit, I'm going to eat them. You know what I mean? But I'm producing enough to feed for months at a time,
agreed.
If not a whole year's worth of garlic. And so that's something that's really important to remember. Like, I mean, the whole idea of having a garden is supplying yourself with food. And that's what I want to do, is supply myself with the food to go on for the year. So like, I'm still eating butternut squash from last year. I have like 6 butternut squash left.
Yeah.
And it lasted me a full year. And that's what you want. So, just remember that when you're deciding how much you really want to grow. I always grow a little bit more than I really want to grow because I know I'm going to need it.
Okay.
And I got a little mini me that likes to eat a whole lot. So.
Okay. That look is like, thanks for telling me the thing I already knew, but okay.
Well, I was not really speaking to you.
Right. Okay.
There's more people listening than just you.
Sometimes I get all twisted around when we're just talking, you and I, and then there's actually like, thousands of people listening. Hey guys.
Hi. Welcome back. All right, look, Batavia, we've got it figured out this week. She's going to give us the recipe of the day.
All right, so we're going to do roasted asparagus and tomatoes. There are a couple of caveats here. I really don't want to turn my oven on that much now, but when I roast things, generally it takes a lot shorter over time. We're at the end of the season for asparagus. I'm not yet growing it in my garden, but I hope you are. If not, get it from the grocery store or farmer's market. And we're at the very beginning of tomatoes. So this is going to be like a cherry tomato or a grape tomato. Go ahead and preheat your oven to 425. Get a bunch of asparagus, trim off the ends, the stalky part. Get about a cup of tomatoes, grape tomatoes or cherry tomatoes. We're going to coat this thing pretty heavy. So we're talking about maybe 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Let's go with 2 tablespoons of balsamic vinegar. This is going to be our seasoning, right? Let's do salt and pepper to taste. If you have garlic salt, do garlic salt, right? And then we're going to have some grated Parmesan cheese. So your oven's preheated, put all of the ingredients into a bowl, coat them with everything we just listed, right? And then lay out the ingredients in a single layer in a pan, cookie sheet, roasting pan. And you're going to bake or roast this for about 15 minutes. I want to see like some golden brown pieces. Like I want to see some bits that almost look burnt but aren't quite. And then once you get done, you can sprinkle it with Parmesan cheese. You had to turn your oven on. I know it was hot, but we got you in and out. You could actually, I have like a grate, like, kind of like we cook vegetables on the grill. You could do this exact same thing and take the, I don't know what it's officially called, but that little pan thing that you put on top of the grill, and you could cook it that way too if you want it. If you want to be outside and enjoy.
That's good.
Roasted asparagus and tomatoes.
Solid roasted asparagus. I don't like to talk about asparagus, though.
Asparagus should probably almost never be boiled or steamed.
No, I'm just saying I don't like to talk about it because I know that I would love growing it, but I'm too impatient to grow it. And then every time I think about it, I'm like, if I would have just started it, I'd be getting asparagus now.
I have one space that I am strongly considering. This year it has sunflowers in it, and they're starting to become gorgeous. So it's going to take some time for me to say I'm not doing it there. But I have one bed that I just kind of dug out, really narrow, small. The only issue I have in dedicating it to asparagus is the way that the squirrels and the cats kind of crawl through the fences, and I can just see them crawling all up on that bed. I'm not sure if I'm about that life.
No, man. What? Why are you going to plant asparagus now? You are about to buy the house across the street from me and move in. I don't even know why. Like, I've been pressuring you so hard. You keep trying to set roots. We're not having this.
That's gonna be a part of the closing deal when I sell this house. It's gonna be like, but you also have an asparagus patch, and that alone has to be worth.
So, just for the record, when you sell a house and you have a garden, you own the rights to all the food in the garden for that last year. It's like an old farmer's law. So you could really go back, start your garden, and then come back during the year and be like, yeah, I'm here to get my vegetables.
Someone's inside of the house. Honey, is that? We know her, don't we? Yeah.
Yeah. That's that weird lady.
That's the garden lady for sure.
Yeah, that's the garden lady. She's weird. She comes back and gets her own food. So yeah, don't. I mean, I'm serious. Don't plant that.
Stop it.
I know.
I love you too, buddy. I know. That's like your love language. I get it.
I'm just messing with you. Yeah, truth. No, I mean, every year I think about it, I'm like, man, it's been 2 years. I would have asparagus by now. And I don't do it. I don't know why. I just, for some reason, I've been so hesitant. And I think too, because we eat so much asparagus that it wouldn't really, I don't think that we would cover our needs.
Yeah. I mean, that's such an interesting point. You don't think you'd cover your needs. That's exactly where I'm at with strawberries. And we can actually pick this up on the next episode. But I'm thinking of...
What is the next episode?
I don't know. Another episode, maybe. Maybe not that.
I was like, we have another episode planned, but I was like...
a future episode. I'm going to say it again. It may not be enough to meet your needs. I'm going to write that down because I want to talk about that more.
Yeah, I mean, it's important, space is a premium. So, anyways, all right, everybody, you've heard our garden updates. I hope that you guys are interested in fall gardening. If you are, let us know. And I know I didn't say this in the beginning of the show, but I'm saying it at the end. So Backyard Gardens TV on Instagram, DM us a picture of your garden and we will feature it on our page. We love seeing your gardens and we want our other listeners to see it too. You are part of the tribe. We love you guys. You are a gardener. You are with us. Get out and garden. And Batavia, tell them something good.
See ya.
Thanks for hanging out with us today. If you want to see what we're up to or just stay up to date on all the announcements regarding the show or anything gardening, then you can follow us on Instagram at Backyard Gardens TV.
We love seeing what you guys are doing, so use hashtag BYG Podcast in your posts, and we'll be sharing your gardens with the Backyard Gardens community.
And check us out on YouTube at Backyard Gardens, where we will post this show, all of our other shows, clips, and then also some gardening tips and just gardening entertainment. And you can see us at our website at backyardgardenstv.com. But that's it for today's show. So help us as we learn to grow and grow for change. And until next time, we'll catch you guys later. We'll call this one a wrap.
Now you know why people feel like celebrating at harvest time.
All over the world, people have feasting and good times when the crops have been gathered in.